Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chasing Collectibles Catchup. I'm Tyler, and over the next couple weeks, we're going to be doing a bunch of episodes in advance of our convention, Nerdfest. And all of the guests these next few weeks are going to be vendors and artists and writers at Nerdfest. And so we're going to start off today with Jason Gilbert, who is a local author and also dabbles in the horror genre. And also, I was looking at a whole bunch of the things that you do, and it's a lot. So, like, you're much more than just a writer. So, it was many, many hats. So, Jason,
Yeah,
thanks for joining us.
thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's going to be cool. This is our upcoming second Nerd Fest. And I know you're from Rock Hill originally, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, first 42 years of life. I was born and raised in Rock Hill and
Nice.
graduated from Northwestern High School, graduated from Winthrop University, went to York
Oh,
Tech.
nice.
Now I'm up here in Western North Carolina. I'm a licensed electrician up here, and
Cool. Nice.
I've also been a convention runner. Uh, did that. I've done that for many years. Film festival runner, film critic,
Wow. All the things.
dad, all the things, all
Yeah.
the things.
I That's cool. They went to Winthrop. I graduated there in 2019 and 2020.
I
So
graduated
did
in '03. Yeah, I think it was '03.
okay. So not super long ago, all things considered.
Yeah.
They have. You should come by downtown Rock Hill at some point because they've really done a better job at like making more things for people to do in the area. Because I know Winthrop's kind of known for
Yeah.
being like you go to school and then you just people would go home because there's nothing to do.
Pretty much. And growing up, I mean, I remember when I was a little kid for a bit, they decided it'd be a fantastic idea to put a roof on downtown and
Hmm.
make it like this great big indoor shopping area.
Huh.
That didn't work. So they
Yeah.
took that off. And then they just kind of left it as, the whole history of Rock Hill thing for years and years and years. And then they started developing. Anderson Apartments actually went up and was closed out, ready to go, had people living in it by the time I left.
Oh
Actually,
wow.
a
Yeah.
few years before I left. And I'm up here in Asheville and going back to Rock Hill. I'm like, wow, this is starting to look, it's almost like they're trying to become Little Asheville,
Yeah. It's
which I
getting
think is
Asheville
great.
adjacent. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great. What is it called? The vortex or the
Where is it?
tornado? It's like right next to Player One Up.
Yes, yes. I can't remember, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, they've got a bunch of
Yeah.
cool, like they've got breweries, they've got different
Mhm.
restaurants and just shops. So they're doing a lot more with it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I mean that bar, little bar in particular, that's about as close as you're gonna get to an alt bar in Rock Hill. So if you're part of that scene, you definitely need to check that place out.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Now I don't want our conversation on Rock Hill to dominate everything. I'm sure we could stay here forever and just talk Rock Hill,
Oh my
but
God, the
I think we'd
stories I
much
could tell you.
I'm, I'm sure we'd much rather talk creative side of things. I kind of dabble in some writing as well, kind of aspirationally would love to get a, sci-fi book published.
Mhm.
So what kind of got you into writing and then kind of in particular the horror genre?
Um, I love to tell stories and I love horror. I grew up on it. I remember watching Friday the 13th part 3 when the television cut premiered on
Mhm.
cable television like right after Seinfeld. Um so I mean I've been in it for a long while and then started, leaning more and more into the comedy side of it as well, which frankly is not difficult because there's no difference between mechanically between horror and comedy. There's really not. It is literally timing wise, mechanically the exact same thing. It's what you're setting up. Is it going to be scary or funny? And it's all about the
Right.
payoff.
Yeah.
Um, I wrote my first book at 18 years old, 19 years old, and published my first book at 36.
Nice. That's awesome. And I know it's a process. I mean, I know everything that goes into like finding agents and editing and all it can be very grueling. So that's very cool that you're able to get that done.
It can be. Finding agents isn't wholly necessary anymore, but it also depends on what market you're going to go into.
Mhm. Oh, and I know it's kind of what's kind of attracted me to writing is that like I know with like you've done films and like with filming you've got you've got actors and you've got obviously the visuals. With comic books you've got the visuals and the writing of course, but then with like with a book it's literally just the reader and what the author has written down, which like it can be a challenge, but also there's so much you can play around with just having that person and what can you do
Mhm.
to like fill them in on like the dialogue and the scene setting and all of that. So that makes it a lot of fun.
I mean, I'm a huge film buff, and when I read, I envision it, everything plays out in my head while I'm reading like a
Right.
movie. So my storytelling style tends to be really cinematic.
Mm.
Um, Fortunately, that's what editors are for.
Yeah, yeah,
um, I mean, rewrites are a thing. But even when I did my self-published stuff, I still had an editor because don't ever edit yourself.
yeah,
And so, if you know how to storyboard, if you can draw it and then tell me about it in detail, verbally without me seeing the picture, you can write it down.
yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, definitely. I definitely with you on like never edit your own stuff because it's you get so you see the same thing so many times and you just kind of like gloss over stuff and
Well,
it's
and
really good to have a second set of eyes on that.
plus my communication style is different from yours because I'm Jason, you're Tyler.
Mhm.
So I know what I'm saying. So to me, it might look fine and it might read smoothly. You get your hands on it and you're like, what the hell is this?
Right,
Wait a
exactly.
minute. How
Yeah,
this
yeah,
sentence makes no sense.
yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely, don't edit yourself. And unfortunately, I know a lot of people who are like, well, I'm my own editor and I'll, read something and there's like, oh, I can tell.
Yeah, well, there's, I've got a friend of mine who's like, we're working on like, she's trying to get a book published, and I'm trying to, well, like, we're beta reading each other's stuff, and we've talked about like, there's, it's good that self-publishing has gone much easier over time, but also like, if you look at Amazon, some of the stuff that's getting self-published, because the barriers to entry is so low, it's like, oof, like you probably should have read over this again.
AJ Hartley's a good friend of mine, and he once said, and he maintains this mantra: the best thing about self publishing is anyone can do it. The
Mm.
worst thing about self publishing is anyone can do it.
Right,
I won't knock self publishing. I mean, it is a perfectly viable way to get out there. My publisher started as a self published author, and
Mhm.
now he's one of the largest independent presses in the Southeast.
That's
Um,
awesome.
he's got well over 300 some odd titles, and
Mm.
40 some odd titles are his.
Wow.
Um, at the same time, I will never do it again because when you self pub, you are the author, you do the marketing, you do the editing, you do the format, you do the cover. It is all your responsibility. And if you don't have the money to pay other people who are more talented than you are to edit, format, cover your book, it,
Yeah.
I mean, it could lead to disaster. I can't draw a straight damn line.
Right.
So my cover art I sourced out to a friend of mine who also works for my publisher as one of his editors, and she did it, as side work. Um, I prefer going through a publisher because I don't have to worry about all that. I just have to worry about writing the books and marketing them.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
it.
Yeah, because that's a whole another ball game when you talk about editing, marketing, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I can go on and on about that. The
Yeah,
biggest thing that I see with self-pubbing, especially with newer authors, is you get a lot of the publishers coming in going, for this much money, we'll edit and format and cover and publish and blah, blah, blah. And I always tell people run
oh yeah,
because
don't you don't want to pay people. I mean,
no, you don't pay someone to publish your book. Money is supposed to come to the author. So
mhm.
if there's a check being written, it needs to be paid to the order of the author, not
Right?
paid to the
Yeah,
order of this
exactly.
publisher. And I've just seen so many authors get swindled. I had one author, and I haven't seen him on the concert in years. He ended up with 350 copies of this book that he had published. I think it was by Author House, but don't quote me on that. And they had rights of first refusal. So he bought a ton of these books and ended up not being able to sell really any of them And
Mm.
then once the contract ran out, he's just stuck with them.
Wow. Yeah, that's no good.
No.
Well, let's stick on topics. One of your books is the Cold Stone Case Files. I was
Yep.
wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what that series is about.
Son of the Wolfman investigates crime. Best friend beats him with a rolled newspaper when he's been a bad dog. It is a werewolf buddy cop police procedural urban fantasy series. Uh, Very Dresden coded. Just full disclosure, I'm a Dresden's Files fan. Think supernatural, but Sam is a werewolf and Dean is a cop, and they live in Rock Hill. James's apartment is actually in the Anderson apartments,
Nice.
and
That's cool.
a
I
bunch
live
of
there.
grisly
That's
murders
wonderful.
start up. Yeah, and a bunch of grisly murders start up, and hilarity ensues. So book one, Rock Hill, Charleston, Jacksonville, Florida. Book two is in Savannah, Georgia. Book three comes out in January. It's going to be in Charlotte.
Mm,
Book four is going to be up here in Western North Carolina, and then probably move back down that way. I don't know yet because it's with an ongoing series. Like I don't have like, oh well, it's going to be 5 books and we're done. No, I'm going to
yeah.
write this till people stop reading it.
Right.
So literally every book I'm writing and putting out there, I'm also planning for the next book and where it's going to be. But it takes place in real world locales, and the crimes are based on true crimes. So the
Oh,
first
nice.
book, he's chasing down a trafficking ring. The second book, he is looking at he's battling land fraud, land grabbing, racism. Third book, because not a smart man, I decided to tackle mass shootings.
Mm,
Uh, so we'll see. And then book four goes into it touches a little more on the current events going on without getting into detail.
gotcha.
So I try to keep it realistic, and I also try to keep it grounded in reality. If a werewolf comes up and slashes a dude across the stomach, chances are it's gonna be blood everywhere. His guts are gonna spill out, and it's gonna smell really bad. So when I'm writing, I try to keep that grounding in reality. Yes, there's werewolves and vampires and other kinds of monsters and cryptids out there, but at the same time, it's based in reality. They have weight. They are carbon based. They can do things, and those things they do affect other things, even if it's magic. So I'm having a real big time with it. It's also got some Criminal Minds coding to it, if you're into that show as well. So it right now it's my current ongoing series, and it's also my number one seller. It's got the biggest fan following.
Nice. That sounds super cool. And I could tell when I asked that you already had like you've definitely practiced here's the 1 to 2 sentence pitch summary of what this is.
The
Um,
elevator pitch. Yep.
right, exactly. Yep. And it sounds really
Is
cool. It's definitely want to check it
it's
out.
the elevator pitch. I always tell new authors, get that elevator pitch. Pretend, and what that means for those of you viewing who don't know, literally imagine that you and I get on an elevator. You want to tell me about your book. I am getting off on the next floor. You
Mhm.
have until the door closes, till it opens again, to make me interested in your story. So that's where your 1 to 2 sentence elevator pitch comes in.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean that's for, if you have people even like trying to figure out what book am I going to read, you're reading the back, you're doing all you don't have that much time to really get that person's attention.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially if I've done Galaxy Con, I've done Dragon, I've done the Renaissance Festival, and I mean, you get a flood of people. You have time to do your pitch because they're
Yeah.
they're going to buy something. They just want to know what they're holding because they don't have time necessarily to sit there and read it. Smaller cons where there's not as many attendees, it's easier to kind of do some back and forth and hang out for a minute, and kind of get to know them, get to know me a bit. I get to know them a bit. And sometimes I even see old friends. Like, when I come back to Rock Hill, I've already got people who are jazzed that I'm coming who
Yeah.
plan to come out to Nerdfest. So they'll be able to rap with me for a minute and whatnot, and hopefully buy my shit.
Yeah. Well, so you actually mentioned something that I planned to ask you about too, which is the what you do at the Renaissance Festival with the time traveling authors. Um,
So we don't do it anymore, unfortunately. That came to an end. But what we would do is during Time Travelers Weekend, we would set up in the King's Court, and it was me and a bunch of the authors that I would jury through, who would have to have a certain number of titles published. And then depending on, that number would depend on whether or not you're traditionally published, self-published, or both. um I didn't, how many of your own titles do you have versus anthologies, that kind of thing. And it was a great weekend. We had a big time with it. Just unfortunately, they decided to go in a different direction that we weren't able to go, so that was the end of it. But during that time frame, we had a big time with it. They I hope that they give me a call back and then we can come back, but we'll see what happens. They've got a different thing going on right now. Just unfortunately for my group, wasn't
yeah,
really feasible.
right, understandable. That is really cool. That's a unique idea. And with, I guess, with writing in mind, what would be your, do you have like, I know one tip that helped me a lot with like my writing style was like that show versus tell. That gets so,
Gotcha.
and then you can get so in the weeds with that because like it's a lot more
Yes.
there's so many things that are like you're telling versus showing. Do you
Yeah.
have a
Show.
piece of advice or
Yeah.
just something in general for aspiring
Yeah.
writers?
Yeah. Show, don't tell, but at the same time, don't be Hideo Kojima.
Mm,
Like if you ever played Metal Gear Solid 2, like I could not wait to play this game. And then I sit down to it and I've got an hour and a half full motion video cutscene of this door and the background and history of everyone who has ever walked through that door. Nobody cares.
right,
So the challenge is finding the balance of showing and not telling, but at the same time understanding that people don't sit under trees and read all day long as their sole source of entertainment anymore. So do it in fewer words,
right.
but at the same time, don't do it in so few words that it sounds like they're reading a news report. So,
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with saying the room, had a red hue to it. Cool. From what? The light fixture. All right, sweet. You know, that's perfectly fine versus the super flowery language, or versus, walking in, the lights were red.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And one thing that helped me was like someone, kind of mentioned to me that like, think about like your POV character. When you're walking into a room, every single time you walk into a room, you're like, wow, this wall, there's this many pictures and this many this, and like you don't soak in everything every in real life, but you do notice like, oh, there's oh my gosh, there's blood on the wall. What do you notice that's
Yeah.
really catching your attention that's abnormal?
That's why I write in third person single narrative,
Mm,
because I am one of those people. When I walk in, I'm not going to sit here and go into huge detail as to what I'm seeing. It's a picture, it's a poster of this. But so when I write first person, I tend to slide into that. Okay, I walked in the room. This is what I've got in front of me. Let's roll.
mm,
And I can't write novel length stories like that. Now my short stories are exclusively in first person. I've got 5,000 words to tell you what's going on and come to a conclusion. My publisher, on the other hand, excuse me, my publisher, on the other hand, writes exclusively in first person, and it works for him.
yeah,
He's really good at it. I'm not a big fan of the omniscient viewpoint. I'm not a big fan of third person multiple narrative. I won't sit here and say they're terrible ways to write any more than I would say that writing in first person is lazy. It's just what works for you.
right,
Um, so I don't like omniscient or second person or present tense or anything like that. So I don't read it. I
yeah,
don't write in it. You might decide that present tense works perfectly for you, works perfectly for your story. It worked for the Hunger Games.
hmm,
So, find your voice and stick with it. And if you have a different voice based on the type of story that you're working on, or the type or the format of story you're working on, that's okay. You do not have to say, well, why am I writing in first person? I should be writing in third person single narrative. No, write it in first person if that's where it feels comfortable. Just
yeah,
because I can't do it at novel length doesn't mean you can't.
Yeah, exactly. No, I bet the friend I was mentioning earlier, they've got, theirs is all in first person. It's also romance, which is like I feel like first person definitely lends itself really well
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
romance in a way that like I'm writing sci-fi, it's more third person. Like I feel like that's more geared, But again, like you said, whatever is your way of doing it, you know,
Right.
you got to
And
do
for
it.
romance, it definitely you want that first person POV or the single narrative. I've not read many romance novels that were multiple narrative or omniscient that I particularly enjoyed.
Yeah,
Um, any of the romance stories I've read that have been first person, I've always found them top tier because whether regardless of whether or not the character's male or female, I'm stepping in the shoes of that character and I'm looking at the world through their viewpoint and then those situations from their viewpoint, and it just makes more sense and makes those situations work better.
yeah, exactly. So we've mentioned this, you're big into horror. What do you think is like, do you have any like top favorite horror tropes overall? Things that you like happen often that you're like, oh, yeah, this is great,
um
or even
I
least favorite things that you're like, you're tired of seeing,
well, I mean, my least favorite would be like, why does every group have to have the bitchy cheerleader?
right?
Like we get it. We're supposed to hate this character, but what happens when you're later into the series and all the characters suck?
Right.
Like all of them are, you want all of, you know, it, I'm a huge fan of the Friday the 13th series. And once you keep watching into them, by about part six, you're rooting for Jason.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of like when you're watching Jaws. In Jaws 4, you're rooting for the shark.
Yeah.
Um, which I mean, yeah, that movie. But it's so seeing that trope is kind of annoying. One trope I do like is the everyman that stumbles into a fantastic situation, um, where they don't know what's going on, and I like the trope of where they stay the everyman. It loses. I don't like the trope where we meet an everyman and then halfway through we find out that he is a former veteran and a secret ops and has all
Mhm.
this military training. And the next thing you know, we go from uh, Michael Scott from The Office, who just haplessly fell into the situation. Now he's being played by Jason Statham.
Yeah. Yeah.
That drives me nuts. I like the I like the forbidden house kind of thing,
Mm,
air of mystery, the don't go in the house kind of situation or don't go to the campground.
right.
So those are the big things I'm into. And even in some of those, like, come on. Um, the whole, if you have sex, you're going to die,
Yeah.
which I mean came from my favorite series, Friday the 13th, but just kind of became this huge trope to the point of becoming a cliche.
Well, the whole
And I
Scream movie, the Scream movies made fun of all the tropes. So that was definitely one of them
absolutely.
they went after.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And she didn't die. So that kind
Yeah.
of turned the trope on its head. Um and I was thankful for because it kind of made everybody look at the older movies with a little bit more of glasses, if you will, on, some vision correction. Like, oh, okay, yeah, that was kind of goofy. Oh, they're having sex. Well, good thing I didn't get attached to them. They're gone.
Right. Yeah. It has been interesting. So I'm not naturally a horror fan. My wife is, and so when we started dating almost 11 years ago now, the first movie we saw together in theaters was Annabelle, which I had never seen a horror movie in theaters before because I kind of actively avoided it. But so it was, I think they're creepy. A lot of the Bloomhouse stuff is creepy, and we've seen some good stuff. But it is interesting how I feel like in the past couple of years, you've almost had some of these like elevated horror movies where they're going for like a different vibe. There's like things like I just saw a few weeks ago Weapons or The Barbarian was really good or the Witch. There's so many of these like kind of like different, like more unsettling movies that have come out lately.
I like I loved when The Witch came out, I loved seeing that brief resurgence of folk horror
Hmm.
because it you get your in your face horror movies. I mean, you get movies like Annabelle, The Conjuring, you get movies like your Halloweens, your Friday the
Yeah.
13th. There's more in your face horror. I mean, Terrifier, if you're just looking
Yeah.
for straight gore porn. Um, but then you get something like The Witch, and it's not, it's so, everything is so subtle. Even when the baby gets taken, when she just
Hmm.
opens her eyes and it's gone, it takes you a minute to realize, like, wait, what? Hold
Right.
on, something just happened. And it doesn't show you everything. And I feel like that a lot of times some of these movies are trying to show too much for shock factor.
Hmm.
And you can only do that so often before you're desensitized to it. If
Yeah.
you're a zombie movie fan, that disemboweling scene, the first time you see it, that's disturbing. About the 50th time you've seen somebody disemboweled, it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about films like The Witch, like the original The Haunting, not the 1999 one, was the subtlety. It was more about the sounds, it was more about the atmosphere. That's one of the things I like so much about the original Silent Hill game was it wasn't in your face so much. It was always atmospheric, and then you might turn the corner and oh, that's disturbing. Now I've
Right.
got a feeling of dread, and turn around and there's a monster, waiting to stab you.
Right. And it feels like those more subtle movies are ones that you leave thinking about more.
Hmm?
Those movies, and I can't think of one right now, but like, there's some movies where like it ends and you're like, oh man, I guess they didn't get rid of the demon, the demon's still
Yeah.
among us or whatever. Like, when there aren't happy endings and you're just left with like the credits rolling, like, well, alrighty, those
Or
are kind of more unsettling than the
oh,
in your face
absolutely.
and
Absolutely, because now I have to think about it. The in your face stuff, like I think about something like Halloween, and I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, it was a Michael Myers movie. This kill was cool. This kill was cool. You watch something like The Others,
Mhm.
uh, now you're kind of thinking about things. It's like, wait a minute, because hold on, she was in that room, but the noise was over here, but she just saw, oh, well, there's a twist at the end of the movie.
Mm. Yeah.
Which I'm not going to spoil that because apparently it's seeing kind of a resurgence. Uh, so yeah, I like films that kind of leave me thinking about things. It's why I like the Godzilla films so much,
Mm.
is because those movies, yeah, they're disaster flicks, but if they're at their core, and I'm talking about the solo Godzilla movies, the what I like to call the existential ones, they are at their core horror movies because that's terrifying.
Yeah.
And what he's representing, depending on the one you're watching, it can resonate and be so terrifying. That's why Godzilla minus one, if you really take a look at what Godzilla himself's representing and what's going on with the characters, he's horrifying. And what's worse is you can't get away from him.
Right. Yeah.
You can't, there's no escaping it because there's no escaping your guilt. So
Yeah.
yeah, I recently just went and saw Shin Godzilla. They re-released it in 4K in the theaters, and that one is another one that's truly terrifying.
I haven't seen
And
that one yet.
he was, and the intention was is that he represented the tsunami that hit Japan and the aftermath from that and how the government reacted. Then COVID happened,
Mm.
and we're all locked inside and we're all watching this movie that came out in 2016, but suddenly it kind of fits with what's
Takes on a
going
new
on
meaning.
right
Yeah.
now. Yeah, absolutely. And it's still terrifying because you're this thing doesn't do anything, it just walks. That's it. And then they mess with it and it blows up and
Mm.
levels the entire city with its breath. So, but then I can turn around and give you arguments as to why in that line of Godzilla movies, his breath weapon is not really a weapon; it's a trauma response.
Mm. That makes me, I got to check that out. I've got a brother-in-law. He's like 15 now. When I first met him, he was 5, but he's always been into Godzilla. I feel like there's got to be one we need to watch. Add that to the list.
There's Hero Godzilla, which is like your current Screen Gems Godzilla, your legendary. You've got like any Godzilla versus fill in the blank, but then you have your serious existential Godzilla movies, Gojira, Godzilla 1985, or was called Godzilla Returns. Shin Godzilla, Godzilla minus one. So it just depends on what flavor you're looking for.
Right. Do you just one more kind of horror thing is another one is like the zombies and all that. Were you into the Walking Dead? Did you keep
I
up with that
get
much?
I kept up with it for 5 seasons
Mhm.
and then got kind of burned out on it.
Yeah, I
Turn
was the
around and
same
read the
way.
comic series. Comic books are, I mean, I plowed through that. I've got all four
Right.
companions. It is excellent storytelling.
Yeah.
The series for a while kind of, I didn't care that it got away from the comics. Honestly, it's its own universe, and I get that. It There were times where it felt like it was meandering, like in the storytelling, like, well, then this happens, and then this
Right.
happens, and I feel like you could tell in places where it's like, okay, they had this plan, they know where they're going, and then other places like, wow, they're out of ideas. This is
Yeah.
Let's just do a day in the life episode until we can figure this out.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I ended up getting burned out on it. I didn't watch Fear the Walking Dead.
No, I didn't watch
Um,
that either.
yeah, but I mean, like, I'll watch a zombie movie in a heartbeat.
Hmm.
I've the Dawn of the Dead remake. I watched the OG Dawn of the Dead multiple times, even when I was a child. The original Night of the Living Dead, which I've met Judith O'Dea numerous times. She is sweet as she can be. A friend of mine works with her pretty frequently in his movies. So yeah, I enjoy the zombie franchise. I feel like the Walking Dead TV show was fine going away from the comics, but they lost the thread when it came to the
Right.
storytelling.
Yeah, I think it was after Negan in the show that I kind of hopped off. I was like, okay, we've kind of done what we need. After that, they kind of
Mm-hmm.
heated off for me. And
Yeah,
that's one thing with like the zombie stories is I think when you go on for too long, like we do. It's cool seeing how do humans respond after a while when we start to have different civilizations.
right.
But I think after a while, it's like, okay, what's going to happen next?
Yeah,
There
I
was,
think that's why Fallout's going to do a whole lot better
Mhm.
because that's a pretty rich world that you can tell that story in. And the issue I have with Walking Dead, at least where I got to a point, is we've only ever seen the same area. We're in Georgia, Kentucky, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina area.
Yeah,
Fallout, I mean, like Fallout 4 was in Boston, Fallout New Vegas. We had Fallout 3 in Washington State. So, or Washington D.C. Excuse me. So I feel like the zombie genre, were they to go to that level where we could kind of see more of how it's affecting the rest of the planet, I think would be pretty cool.
right. And that's where I think it's interesting. I still haven't watched the new season of The Last of Us, but it is interesting. I loved Last of Us in terms of like its storytelling and also like their explanation for how the apocalypse happened and all that. That was always kind of fun.
Like, and it's grounded in reality, which
Yeah,
zombie shows and movies tend to not be.
right.
So Last of Us, those zombies were made off of a fungus that actually exists and does
Yeah,
that to
that's scary.
ants.
That's scary to know that's
And that
real, you
is,
know?
yeah, that fungus is real. It if and it is considered the most environmentally friendly way to get rid of ants because it infects them and then makes them climb up to the top of a tree where it takes over their body and kills them.
Yeah,
Um,
horrifying.
yeah, and it also, while they're doing it, spreads.
Hmm.
So it because it wants to be communicable. Um, so yeah, that Last of Us, I think, is a more horrifying concept
Yeah,
than
exactly.
Aunt Sally rose from the dead and now she's trying to eat my face. Like, well, you know what? It's Tuesday, so we should
Yeah.
have expected that, and you shouldn't have told her that her apple cobbler sucked. I can't help you, son. I can't help you.
Um, so as we're wrapping up here, I did want to talk one more thing, and because I was kind of like I like to come prepared for interviews, and I like kind of seeing how, what people like and all that. Um, and I noticed you're a heavy metal fan. I'm
Ooh,
into, and your shirt also helps give it away too. I'm a big classic rock fan.
okay.
Um, but I know we had, I guess it was a month ago now, Ozzy Osbourne passed away.
Yeah.
and he was connected to the Beatles and that he was huge and he loved the Beatles.
Oh yeah.
And I know Helter Skelter, people argue, was like the first kind of early metal song, and of course it's progressed a lot since then. Um, but what do
I
you
can.
like? Are you a fan of what are some of your favorite heavy metal bands? Did you enjoy Ozzy and Black
Oh, I
Sabbath?
know.
And
I loved Ozzy. His death really messed with me for days and days and days. I was so upset. I mean, obviously Iron Maiden's my favorite. Um, excuse me, I like a lot of classic rock. I will counter Helter Skelter being the first metal song. I would give it rock, like harder
like
rock than what we
more
were
heavier
used to.
rock? Yeah.
I would argue that Stone Cold Crazy by Queen is the first thrash metal song.
Mm, yeah,
Um,
I can see that.
Alice Cooper, grew up listening to him. Probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. And
Oh,
my
you got to
kid
meet him.
actually
That's
made,
cool.
yeah, my kid actually made friends with him. So I'm at my table selling books, and she would walk by every now and then. Hey, Daddy, Alice says hi. Um, you're not, you know, the big dude with the beard walks up to your table and wants to hang out with you. Ugh. A cute little, preteen girl with blonde hair and just big blue eyes who wants to come hang out with you. Hey, sweetie, how are you?
Yeah,
It's a little better, a little bit more of a sell there. She's probably not likely to hold you up.
yeah,
Um, but and then I also like, and I don't know how you feel about growly vocals, but I do like uh melodic death metal.
mm,
So like Insomnium, I've been kind of getting into In Flames lately. Winter Sun is really good, more epic sounding,
gotcha.
operatic sounding metal. So even when these guys are growling into the microphone, you can't understand them. It is more like singing than grindcore
Yeah,
tends to be. I respect Cannibal Corpse. I respect Cattle Decapitation. Sure, I mean you guys are successful. It's just not my thing.
yeah,
But also like Taylor Swift. I consider myself a Swiftie. I do not own her albums. I don't go out of my way to listen to her music. It's not my thing, but I respect the hell out of her, what she's done with her career. And I've never heard a Taylor Swift song that I don't like.
yeah. No,
Um,
she's super talented.
yeah, I can't, I don't really hang well with modern country, but if you
Mm,
throw on some Willie Nelson or Johnny Cash,
yeah,
sure, we can do that. Um, I can do some rap. My fiance's got me into Dochi. So
okay.
she's a lot of fun. Doja Cat's just fun to listen to sometimes.
Mhm.
And then the one that just did uh the Super Bowl halftime show.
Gosh, wasn't Rihanna, was it?
No, it wasn't
No, that
Rihanna.
was a
Who
couple
did
years
the
ago.
Super Bowl halftime show? Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah, yeah,
Kendrick Lamar, then he's fun to listen to as well.
yeah,
So I'm pretty diverse, but my go-to is typically uh, prog metal, British steel, classic hard rock kind of
yeah.
stuff.
Do you dabble at all in any? He's this is one of outside the Beatles. My favorite solo act is Bob Dylan. Do you dabble in
Yeah,
any Dylan?
I grew up on Bob Dylan. Uh,
Nice.
so we used to have a lot of fun singing to his songs and trying to imitate the way he's saying things. Everybody
Yeah,
must get stoned. The man
right.
could not sing. The man could not hold a note in a bucket, and he had a major career.
You
So
can
I
sing.
mean,
It's just
mad
different.
respect. It was different.
Yeah,
Um, love Tom Petty coming up.
yeah.
That was
Traveling Wilburys is great.
Traveling
That
Wilburys.
super group.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I got a healthy dose of the Beatles growing up. Even karaoke a few of their songs. My dad had the White Album on vinyl,
nice.
like an original copy, which was
Oh
pretty
man,
cool.
I teach
Yeah.
my main job. I teach social studies, and I've got
Okay.
comic book posters on my wall, and also like Beatles and classic rock, and I keep my records there, and I'll play them vinyls. And a lot of sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, I like this song," and they like
Yeah.
their heads perk up, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize this artist played so and so." And I always tell them, "Hey, have an open mind. Don't sometimes boys." just to be cool, be like, oh, Taylor Swift sucks or whatever. I'm like, no, she doesn't. She's
Oh,
great. I
not
mean,
at all.
I don't actively listen. If you don't like something, that doesn't mean it sucks. You may not be your thing, but there's,
I mean,
you
I
know,
don't dislike her music. It's just not
it's not
typically
what you're
my
gonna put
vibe.
on. Yeah,
Right. The same thing with Sabrina Carpenter. I like Sabrina Carpenter, and I think as a person, she's really cool. You can watch Hot Ones where they
oh
do
yeah,
interviews where they have people eat the wings, and she's real, well spoken, down to earth, smart gal, and her music is not bad. If you listen to the lyrics, yes, it's got that bubblegum pop sound to it. So did Hey Ya. And if you
yeah,
listen to the lyrics of that song, the song is dark.
yeah,
Where do you
yeah.
teach?
I teach in Fort Mill, so I'm at Nation
Okay.
Ford High School, so just a little bit away.
I taught at ATC for Rock Hill Schools.
Okay, cool, nice. Yeah, I did. Well, I did one of my internships at South Point. Was my first
Okay.
internship, so
Nice.
it's fun. It's hard at times, but
Dude.
I love teaching. I love the students are the ones that make it worth it. Sometimes the adults and
Oh,
all
yeah.
that other stuff, bureaucratic stuff can be challenging. But I mean, you do it for the kids,
I,
obviously.
I always tell people, and I don't mind saying it, this job would be great if it weren't for the freaking parents
Yeah,
and
at, at times,
the bureaucracy. Now I had some great parents, and then I had some that were those parents, but
right?
and then the bureaucracy. But I had a big time doing it. I liked being around the kids. It was the money, and I got offered
Mhm.
a gig up here to go back in the private sector and use my license and make more money.
Mhm.
And it was a good opportunity to come on up here anyway. Even in spite of the hurricane
Right? Yeah.
situation that we
Geez.
got
Yeah.
smacked with.
That
That
was
was a
horrible.
that was a day. That was a
Yeah.
time.
No, I remember just I've got a friend whose family finally like they lived in Charlotte for in their entire life and they decided to move up to Asheville to kind of make their forever home. And I remember like just not they couldn't make contact. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
We live in Black Mountain right next to Swannanoa. And I woke up that morning to go to work. I figured I'll chance it if it's just super rain, because we were told it'd be real heavy rains and winds, but nothing to worry about. I go out there. I can't even open my door. It was raining so hard, and
Jeez.
the power goes out. And so we spent the rest of the time on our phones texting people and keeping Facebook updated, fine, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And then we get the notice to evacuate, like, no, move to higher ground, get out. Okay. Then the phone signal goes away. And the last thing that we were able to post on Facebook is, we've been told to evacuate.
Wow.
End of story.
Jeez.
So I kept running recon down to the street. There's no way for us to get out because the street's under about 6 feet of water. And I climb over the fence and cross the interstate because there was no traffic to look at the rest of it. And it looked like something from a Roland Emmerich film. I mean, just the stuff that y'all have seen on TV really does kind of take away the impact of seeing that in person. So it was unfortunate that at times I would hear comments that I'm not going to repeat here, but just suffice to say, and I would turn around thinking, the stuff that you're commenting on, you're watching on your phone, I saw through the windshield of my truck.
Right.
I
I
actually
can't
have a
imagine.
story. Yeah, it was rough. And I was there for Hurricane Hugo, when it hit
Yeah.
years ago. And this Brock Hill got about the same treatment, wind, trees. We got the flooding because we basically live in a giant cereal bowl. And then on top of that, the dam overflowed.
Yeah.
So, but it was coming back together for a while, and the community really has been pulling together, even with the funding being cut. Because FEMA, we're not getting federal money in here anymore. The community really has been pulling together and just doing everything they can to get the place cleaned up, and everybody's back up and open, and we've
That's
got
great.
leaf season coming up. So if you want to see some of the most gorgeous views you've ever seen, you need to come up here as the leaves start changing colors.
Yeah. Well, I hope there's a lot of tourism. My wife and I love Asheville, so we hope to come up
Yeah,
sometime
you ought to
soon.
come up. I'll take you around to some breweries. We'll get a beer or 12.
Yeah, sounds fun. And in the meantime, I know we have Nerdfest coming up, and I just want to plug
Yep.
again. That's going to be October 11th from 10 to 4 at Sullivan Middle School. It's our second one. We're going to have a cosplay contest. We're going to have comic book vendors, writers,
That is where I
artists.
went to middle school.
Oh, is it? Okay, so it's perfect. It's
I
all. This is
I
going to be
was
a
part
throwback.
of the original, the very first sixth grade class
Wow.
at Sullivan Middle School. And
So
I
this
did
is a
all
true
3 years
homecoming.
there. It is. And the last time I went by, it don't look like the school I went to anymore. The school I went to is still there. It's just a little building now around all this other stuff they've added. But
Expansion.
yeah, it's kind of a
All right,
homecoming.
that's awesome. Well, Jason, it's been a real blast having you on, and we're excited to see you at
Thank you for
Nerdfest.
having me.
Yeah, of course. And I hope people check out your writing and follow you on all the socials and all the things and keep up with you. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm also if you like movies, I am on a stream on Sunday nights called Terrible Movies with Wonderful People, hosted by Oh Hi Mark. I just shot you the link so you can you'll have that to put up whenever this gets posted. Sunday nights we do a deep dive on the movie that we've watched that week. We talk about why is it bad? Is it bad? Can it be saved? And you know, why we love it. This week we're doing Dr. Giggles.
Oh, fun.
We've done Rocky Horror Picture Show, which bombed in the theaters 3 times. We've done Jaws 4, Superman 4, just all these movies that flop. We did Highlander. I love
Oh, cool.
Highlander. It's one of my favorite movies. The movie's trash. I mean, it is not a good movie. I love that movie. So yeah, check us out there. And then on Wednesday nights on the same channel at 10 o'clock, we do Jackbox games. So you can check
Nice.
us out there.
Sweet. We'll be sure to include the link. And again, we're looking forward to seeing you on the 11th. And thanks again so much for coming on, man. It's been awesome. Had a
Absolutely.
great
Thank you
time,
for
and we'd love
having
to have,
me.
yeah, we'd love to have you again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Can't wait to see you in October.
Yeah. Take care.
See you too.
Yay! Coming!